Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from fresh perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 291, The Name of Your Movie. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host. I'm here today in Anderson Studios, a division of the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. And really, this is an amazing day. It's a beautiful day. It's a great day to be alive. And I'm always happy, honored, and blessed to be able to bring you the show. And believe it or not, dear friends, this is the Authentic Spiritual Journey, show 291. And as I'm saying that, I'm realizing just how close we are to show 300. And it's really pretty amazing. So anyway, I bless you on the journey. I'm grateful you're along for the ride. And I wanted to lift up and do a shout out to all of our listeners in Birmingham, Alabama. Friends in Birmingham, bless you. I had some wonderful time in Birmingham many years ago. My brother went to school at Birmingham Southern, and so I'm always happy to know my friends in Alabama. Of course, you know, friends, I grew up in Georgia, so there's always jokes back and forth between Georgia and Alabama. But to my Birmingham friends, I say hello, I lift you up, and I thank you for listening. And I guess all I can say is go to the Flying Biscuit and have something on me. Okay, so anyway, friends, it's so wonderful to have you along the ride, along the journey we call life. And I'm pretty excited about the shows this year. I'm bringing shows and topics that I've thought about for a really long time and just have never done in this show. And as we're in this new year, I'm really on this thing of writing down 10 impossible things every day. And if you hadn't listened yet to the first show of the year that it aired on January 1st, the title was Anything is Possible. Anything is possible for me. Right? Anything is possible. So I want you to listen to that show if you haven't yet. As a reminder, if you have heard it, go on and review the importance of writing down the 10 impossible things. And what you'll discover as you listen to the show, and I want to reiterate it now, what you will discover is the things that seem impossible today are possible tomorrow. And the scripture we keep coming back to is, with man, things are impossible. With God, all things are possible. We know that it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. We know that as we seek ye first the kingdom, all these things will be added unto us. And as I say this is not about getting physical things. This is about spiritual things, but it is also about how we live a spiritual life and how that spiritual life fuels our dreams, our goals, our desires, and how we live that purpose in the world. Friend, that is so, so important. How are we living that purpose in the world today? By believing in ourselves. And when I say believe in ourselves, of course, I'm including God in that. You hear me saying that often, God is my source of all good. But it is okay to believe in yourself, because believing in yourself is believing in God. God has made you, friend. So think about, are you really living those dreams, goals, and desires? Are you tapping into the good that God has for you through your daily work, which was what the show was about last week? And today is a little bit of a reflection. So today, the Authentic Spiritual Journey, show 291 on Monday, January 15th, 2024 is, the title of today's show is The Name of Your Movie. The name of your movie. You say, what's that about? Well, if you were to make a movie about your life, what would you call it? So see, already we're reflecting. If you were to make a movie of your life, what would you call it? Even better yet, who would play you? What would the main themes be? I like having this discussion with myself because I believe these are important questions for the serious spiritual seeker, because it causes me to pause, to reflect, and think about what has my life been about, and it also helps me know where I might be going, as I can have a reflective look on my life and on my choices. So if you were to make a movie of your life, what would you call it? I've done a process several times where I've made a little map of my life, and basically it was done from a spiritual standpoint, and as I developed psychologically, I also saw my psychological and emotional growth in it. But interestingly, I had a teacher that called it your life plan, and there is a show too that we can put in the show notes on your life plan. We'll try to put that in there for you to go back and listen. But the idea is that there is within you this spiritual DNA, this divine DNA that is helping to guide your life. And as you do the process, the idea is that you think through your life in chronological order, so to speak, and then you think about those significant events. And a lot of times, those significant events that we go through are considered at the time negative or hard. And what we see as we look back is often those experiences that we lived through, even abuse that we survived. We learn to take those situations and heal. We use those situations as catalysts for healing rather than continuing to be victimized. I think the name of my movie would be From Survive to Thrive. It may not sell any, that may not sell anything in Hollywood, but I can see how I went from survival mode to thriving over the course of my life. So think about what have the main themes been, and what keeps coming up as I have been speaking to people recently and in my own thought process. I've been thinking a little bit about my whole family as a family system, and how some of us have chosen to heal and some of us haven't. I remember when I was pretty young and my dad was drinking at this time and was certainly an active alcoholic. And I remember I had a brother who said to me one time, "Well, don't you know Dad's an alcoholic?" And I didn't even know what that was. I just knew Dad drank a lot. That was just our reality. But during that time, my oldest brother uh, got into Alcoholics Anonymous and began to heal. And I started sitting outside of the rooms of the Al-Anon people. In those days, there was smoke was filling the church. And I would occasionally go with him to a meeting, which was an open meeting. And I learned about healing through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So from the time I was about, I guess, 8 or 9, 8, 9, 10, that in those ages, I began to learn there was another way. So I learned as I look back at my life, I kind of started looking in 5 to 10 year increments. And I actually, as I did that, I noticed about every 7 years, I would have a big shift. And those shifts usually happened in times of a loss, in times of a health crisis, in times of a death of the member of the family, in times of, wondering where was God. I reached for God in a different way. I could also see as I look back, there were some missed opportunities, and I could also see times where I chose well. And so that reflective look back is super, super helpful in how I want to move forward, because I have this real practice of wanting to make better choices than were made around me as a parent and just as a person, that I want to try to live the best life I can, making the best healing choices that are possible for me. And I've studied over the years the hero's journey as well. And as I look back on my life, that's what I want to view is a hero's journey. But there were missed opportunities, friends. This is called being human. So it's like if I were to decide now I want to live a healed life, what choices would I make? Like, I'm making my movie right now, right? The movie's not over. So that's the other interesting piece is like, as you're so engaged with your journey, which I know you are, if you're listening to this show, you're seeking to live a spiritual life. You are seeking to live not only a spiritual life, but an awakened life. And I'll even use the word conscious life. You probably are either in recovery or you're not in addiction. You are probably seeking to eat well to support your body. You're probably seeking to exercise and have your words match your actions. Like, these are the kind of people that listen to the show. So you're already in alignment with what I'm talking about. You're already doing internal work where you're thoughtful, you are reflective in your process, you are seeking to become more self-aware so that when you go out into the world, you create a world of peace and love and harmony rather than of resentment and, broken relationships. You're seeking to live your best life now. And so as you're thinking about this question, what if you were making a movie of your life, what would you call it? Who would play you? What would the main themes be? We want to keep in mind that the movie is still being made, it's not over. But by a look back, it will help us move forward in making better choices. And even not only making better choices, not that the old ones were bad, but we're seeking to grow and evolve. So as we look back, we can see the times where we made good choices and say, I'm going to do that again. So you may be in your biggest growth, period right now. And that may be obvious too as you look back. So I just find the look back as being very, very important. The other question I'm asking myself is, what is motivating me? Even who is leading me? Because sometimes as we, march through life, we can be pulled down into the egoic self, the limited personality self, when what we're really seeking to do is live from our highest spiritual self, our awakened self. And I absolutely believe, friend, that if you're listening to the show, you are already on a very powerful journey. I just want you to hear me honor that and to say that I know you're a thoughtful person. I know you're seeking to live a spiritual life. I know you're seeking to live an awakened life. I want to repeat that. I know you're seeking to be conscious. And so as we ask these, larger questions as a serious spiritual seeker, we can become more aware of some of the decisions of the past that maybe we're not as conscious as we are now. Well, again, the good news is as we become more conscious, we get to make new decisions. We get to move forward in new ways, and we can start working on our soul's behalf rather than against what our internal call may be. And as I'm saying this, it obviously takes a great deal of courage to begin to listen to that inner voice and to begin to answer that call to be more in the world. So what would your movie be about? I want to keep asking that. If you were to make a movie of your life, what would you call it? Who would play you? I've thought of many different things. Like I said, I think mine might be From Survive to Thrive. And I definitely think Holly Hunter would play me. My other feeling for all of you and myself, I just include myself in this, is I think we're living our biggest, best life now. It's a strange time, too, to be seeking to live your best life because there's so much going on in the world, and it's so easy to feel confused and lost with what's happening in the larger world. But what I know is I can't control what's happening in Israel. I can't control what's happening around the world. What I can be about is becoming more aware, becoming more conscious, and living my best life now. And to do those things, I look to God on a daily basis, and I seek to live what I believe God has in mind for me. So I'm asking reflective questions of myself and of my process so that I'm as clear as possible so that I can support you and so that I can support my son, my family, those I love on their journeys as well. And, some of these questions get very personal very quickly. Some of them are very hard to answer. Like if I ask myself the question, who is leading me? Is it my personality or is it my soul? Well, of course, looking back, it's been both. What I'm amazed at though is how, as I look back, the soul of me and the Spirit of God within me and all around me uses my personality. So it's like when I was first learning all about the personality and ego, it sounded like we were totally demonizing the ego. But the more I learned, the more I realized that, God is so amazing. And the Spirit of God that has made us is so complete and so omniscient that it literally uses our personality to help move us forward and then gives us a new awareness. It's like I don't have to rid myself of my personality. My personality is partly the way I make my living in the world, right? So I don't want to crush my personality, but the personality has to be reined in by the soul of me so that I'm not just doing whatever I want whenever I want. That my personality is guided by soul. It's guided by the Spirit of God. And so when I'm doing this reflective look back, then I can use the new awareness I gain from that and say, okay, this next decision I make, I really want to tap in and say, am I taking this next step because I'm being guided by the Spirit of me, or is there some ego need in that? So that's a great question to ask myself. Now, as I say, ask myself, I said it that way on purpose because so many of us want to say what everybody else is doing and why. Don't worry about everybody else. Focus on you. What's motivating me? Who is leading me? What is leading me? These are the questions I'm asking myself. Is this from ego? Is this from the spirit or soul of me? That's what I want to get clear before I move forward. Even as a business owner, when I'm looking to make changes in my business, I've been very, very careful, especially in the last couple of years, in terms of business decisions. Sometimes it'll look good on paper, but my soul says no, and I trust that. In my business decisions lately, especially in the last couple of years, as not only am I a minister, not only, do I work in a couple of spiritual communities, or actually 3 communities pretty regularly, I'm also a business owner. I own a charitable corporation. And so sometimes things will look good on paper, but my soul will say no. And I trust that completely. I trust that completely. If my spirit says no, I don't do it. I don't do it. So there's also times where I'm looking at a business decision and I think, logically, does this make sense? And my soul says, yes. My soul says yes. So that's what I'm saying about what's motivating you, what's leading you, or who is leading you, because sometimes we have to take the step that our soul is guiding us to take, even if it doesn't look logical. What I can tell you is virtually every spiritual decision I make, if I try to figure it out logically, my mind cannot wrap around it. It's like, I don't understand this, but my soul is screaming, yes, go this way. So that's what I follow. So it helps when I can take a look back to be able to have the courage to do it. I remember when I was maybe I was 17 and I had applied for this college. I grew up in Georgia, a small town, and I had been really guided for a number of reasons to look at a college in Seattle, Washington. And I remember when I applied for it, I thought it was a long shot, but I decided to apply anyway. And not only did I get in, but I got offers for grants, I got offers for scholarship, and I also got a work study program where I was not going to have to take out a lot in student loans, but I would be able to work, while I went to school. And right before I signed the acceptance letter, I said to my dad, I don't know if I should go that far. I said, our whole family's here. I said, maybe I'll do it and come back after a year or 2 years. And my dad looked at me and he said, honey, you know what's yours to do. Follow your guidance. My dad, who is an active alcoholic, who rarely went to church, he did have his own spiritual journey and was quite wise in so many ways, that one statement gave me the courage to go to school. And I am telling you, friends, that was one of the best decisions I ever made for myself. He said, you know what to do. You trust yourself. You know what to do. So as I'm saying all this, you can see that maybe my movie should be called I Followed My Guidance. You can see how that reflective look about, that decision when, I was a teenager taught me early on to listen to that voice. That said, I had a lot of years in there where I still felt pretty lost after that off and on because I was still developing. I was still growing. But that decision to leave Georgia and go to college was amazing, even though it was kind of a culture shock when I got there. I can look back and see that that was such an important decision for my growth and development. And then the final question I'm working with myself is, how am I looking to God in creating this new life for myself? Because truthfully, friends, every single day we have an opportunity to create a new life, right? To create a new life. Every single day we have an opportunity to make new decisions to grow. Every single day we have the opportunity to live into the moment. And even, in my parenting every morning, I'm getting up and I'm setting my intention. One of the first things I think is how grateful I am to have my son. And then I'm seeking to be conscious as a parent, to support him, to give him space to make the right decisions. And, simply that intention helps me look to God to create better decisions every day because I'm seeking the highest in the way I'm parenting. I'm seeking the highest in the way I'm ministering. I'm thinking of new ways to support more people throughout the country. I'm live streaming my own services. I'm working at Unity North Tampa. So all those things I'm looking to God and saying, okay, how can I do this thing that I feel called to do, which is to reach more people? We're around the world with this podcast, right? So every day I'm asking, okay, God, what is mine to do next? So it's easy to get in these ego wants and desires and forget that there's something higher guiding our process. So just staying mindful of, how am I looking to God and creating my life right now? Because every single day I'm creating my life, or as I'm talking about today, my movie. How am I looking to God to create this movie? Because really, that's a lot of what life is, right? It's like this grand play where different characters come and go, some that we think are going to be main characters, some only have cameo appearances, and some are long-lasting. So, friends, simply being mindful. If I were to make a movie of my life, what would I call it? Who would play me? What would my main themes be? These are super important questions. They're important questions to reflect on, to mindfully consider. And then as we look back to see, well, how did those decisions get me to where I am now? Where am I now? Am I in a hero's journey, or am I just making the same mistakes over and over? Are there missed opportunities? Where am I? Am I coming into my biggest life now? Am I coming into my biggest life now, my best life now? When I say my biggest life, what I'm really meaning is my fullest, most expansive life. Like, how am I experiencing goodness, wholeness, peace, abundance? How am I experiencing a life as a whole? Do I have friends and people that love me, or am I isolating? And am I part of communities that are caring and give back to the world? Or do I hang out with people that are nothing but focused on themselves? How big is my life? What kinds of people do I know? Who am I around? What do I get inspired? That's what I mean about my biggest life. And then, who is leading me? What is motivating me? How am I looking to God and creating this life? Or as I'm talking about today, this movie we call life. I've thought about this one for a long time because a friend of mine in ministerial school used to be in the television business, television and movies. And he asked me that question one day. He said, if they were to make a movie about your life, what would you call it and who would play you? And I'm telling you, I've thought about that question for 20 years. It's a great, great question. He may have meant it as kind of a throw-off question, but I took that in very deeply and thought, wow. So friends, what's the name of your movie? Also remembering that at any day, at any moment, at any time, you can change your own story. You can change your own story through your decisions, through shifting your thoughts. You can change your story by putting yourself in new situations with different kinds of people. You can change your story by trying something new. You can change your story by reaching out and getting somebody to help you in these next stages so that you can grow into the person you were really designed to be. So as you do this work, dear friend, always know we're thinking of you. We're always praying for you. And know that as I give these, these are short 30-minute shows, that they come from the depth of my soul. I hope you can feel it and know I'm working this with you. Because, friends, I really, really believe that God loves us. I believe God is working on our behalf. And I 100% believe that we are powerfully co-creating our lives. So my hope for you as you think about this is that if you need to make changes, you make them. And if you need to stay the course, you stay the course. And know that as you do this, I support you, God supports you, the heavens support you. And I'm sure there are lots of people on the journey that are ready to support you moving forward on this journey we call life. So, dear friend, thank you so much for listening today. Know that we love you, we bless you, we lift you up for God's highest and best, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2024, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.